everyone, this is Nathan with People's Town Hall. If you look behind my mask and think I might look familiar, I am also Nathan from Town Hall Project. The incredibly important work of Town Hall Project, which fundamentally is researching, tracking, and disseminating information about lawmaker schedules, is continuing. But today I'm here to talk about an exciting new project, People's Town Hall, which is focusing on our work hosting and organizing town halls themselves. And we have been very lucky over the course of 2020, which has had so many challenges, to have the participation of one of the most prolific town hall holders in Congress, might be the most prolific now that his friendly rival in the House, Jim Sensenbrenner, has retired. So the town hall champ of champs is with me today, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon.
Hey Nathan, good to be able to do this with you.
Good to sit down with you. So just a few questions for you. This has been an incredibly challenging year for constituent engagement. I would imagine one of the most, if not the most, difficult in your career. So besides the virtual town halls, which we've been doing, how have you and your team found ways to stay connected with Oregonians?
What we do is always look for those kinds of venues. You know, it might be, say, something along the lines of a school. They're outdoors, they're having a food pickup for hungry kids, and we'll deliver groceries, we'll stay socially distant, we'll talk to people. But there is no way, and it's why I've so appreciated the kind of work you've been involved in. There's no way to compare the spontaneity and the naturalness of a real conversation with Zoom. In other words, we all have ambivalent feelings about Zoom. It's certainly far better than having no way to communicate, but it also represents another aspect of how the pandemic has taken away from us some of the things we value the most. And I think one of them is with people being able to kind of interact the way we're doing. I mean, here we are. We're able to have a conversation. We still have to wear masks and the like. But I think what you're doing in this kind of new effort, appropriately named after the grassroots, I mean, the People's Town Hall Project, I mean, this is something that I think kind of sums up my idea of public services behind virtually everything I do. I just introduced the River Democracy Bill because I wanted to give people a whole new approach, which is let them nominate the rivers they cared about. So I think reaching out to people the way you're doing is just hugely important, and we all look forward to the day when we can actually do them without just having to
get in the room together again. We are looking forward to it. So what are things that you'd like to hear more of from Oregonians to help you and your team do your jobs? Things that may not be coming up in town halls, things that may not show up in jobs reports or COVID data. What do you wish you were able to kind of hear of people's experiences right now?
I particularly, and I think you've seen this, I particularly like to hear from Oregonians about healthcare, because I've always thought healthcare was the most important issue. It drove me into public service in terms of the Gray Panthers. If you and your loved ones don't have your health, then everything goes by the boards. So I think we're kind of at an inflection point. The new president, Joe Biden, has said that he, much like me, is for these, Medicare kinds of, options. He's spoken about a public option. I've got a menu that encompasses more approaches, but what I'd like to do is flesh out what I think is the bottom line, which is healthcare has to be a basic human right. And once you say that, I'm open to any and all ways to effectively get there.
Great. So some of your colleagues, who I'm not going to name, have used this era of telephone and virtual town halls to really, I'll say this nicely, to avoid tougher questions, to use the holding of the virtual town hall to avoid the questions they might get in a live in-person town hall. And being part of the process that selects the questions that you answer, we don't do that. There's folks who might disagree with you from the left. There's folks that might disagree with you from the right. Some folks that do agree with you on issues. But why is it important to you to hear from everybody in the state, not just folks who agree with you?
Well, to me and people who've come to our meetings have seen it, I really appreciate those people who, for example, might differ with me on most issues. And so if they come to a program and someone says, "Oh, I don't agree with you," I say it's particularly important to respect those people who, to their credit, have come out, they want to be heard, and I try to do everything I can to say it's really important to listen to them. And by the way, it's what the Oregon Way, as I call it, is really all about, is hearing from a lot of people and then knitting together some solutions.
Right. So, we live in a imperfect democracy. This experiment, we're always trying to get better. There's lots of folks that haven't experienced a golden age or a perfect age of how our democracy works. But I think for many Americans, the period between the November election leading up to January 6th really shook the faith in, not just this is an imperfect democracy, we're improving each year, but this is a democracy that has some really existential challenges. And I'm sure you've heard from folks like that too. What are things that give you hope? And if you want to share those, we'd love to know.
Well, first of all, I think we never imagined that we would have a president who felt that between Election Day and January 20th, he could do anything he wanted to, that he was in effect above the law. And what kind of makes me hopeful now is we have this phenomenal resilience in America. We have a great capacity to come back. And every time I think about that, I always recall my friend, the late John Lewis, who'd come over, we'd talk about something, he goes, "And now, Ron, we're going to go out and get into some good trouble."
That's great. So last question, and this is a fun one. So you represent the great state of Oregon in the Senate. You are also an Oregonian yourself. You are a constituent of, the governor, state representative.
We've got all kinds. I think the county exec lives a few blocks from here, and yeah, we got a lot of people in the neighborhood.
So you are a constituent as well. So I'm asking you, if it's at all possible, as a Oregonian and a Portlander, not as a senator, when the Blazers win the NBA Finals.
Ooh, I like that. You don't have to say anything else.
What should the parade route be?
Well, speaking as somebody who experienced the last, title, I think we still got to go with Up Broadway.
Okay.
Also because we know that the downtown has been hit so hard with the pandemic and the protests and the like, the violence, not the peaceful protests, but the violence. And I would just love to see it again, go up Broadway to see Dame and Ennis and CJ and all these, wonderful, players, because I remember it like it was yesterday. Coach Jack and Bill Walton. This was all before lots of Oregonians.
Before I was born.
Before lots of Oregonians were born. It was a magical moment. And there may be other places that, people would like to have considered. And what we usually do in our state is we, figure out a way to get everybody's input and all the rest. But for me, I'd love to see it just go back up Broadway, allow Dame and Ennis and CJ and Mello and everybody sit back and think about what it was like decades ago.
Okay, well, you heard it here first. We'll see you in a few months for the Victory Parade.
From one Blazer fan to
one Blazer fan to another.
Tune in on listening to Ennis on OPB we were on, he has such a great heart. He's always singling out his teammates, talking about how he so enjoys, being with them. And finally, they asked me what I thought, and I said, God, I'm practically out of words. But what Ennis has always been about was sharing the credit and thinking about his teammates. And I think I said that's what Rip City's all about too.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Wyden. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon from People's Town Hall.
Good luck, People's Town Hall.